a positive story, and it's not enough, but it's a start. I take it, but more need to be done. So the Obama administration is reinstating Pell Grants for felons and people that's locked up. Where I believe right now they're starting off with 12,000 prisoners, and they are now able to get Pell Grants. So this is a big deal because Congress suspended this in 1994. So
right.
You want people that's coming from prison to integrate and be productive members of society. And they wonder why the recidivism rate is so high is because of stuff like this where they couldn't get Pell Grants, they couldn't get federal loans to go to school. So you basically closing the doors of all opportunities to the people, and you wonder why they go back to doing what they was doing. It's ridiculous. Now, this is nowhere near enough. Not at all, but it is a positive step. And I know they was flirting with this last year in 2015 when President Obama went to the prison. They made a big deal about that, him being the first president to actually go to a prison. But, I take it. But one thing I want to say, like, it's good to be like, take a win. And it's like, okay, that's a good job. But, we don't want to get complacent. This is, like I said, nowhere near enough. And we got to keep the fight going with this. This is just one step. It needs to be a lot more done, especially when prisoners coming out, how they going to integrate back to society, like the halfway house. It's just so much need to be done with the criminal justice system. It really need to be completely reformed, and that's where we need to go next. But once you get slow progress like this, I think it make it easier for the next step. So I'm very critical of President Obama, but when he does something I like, I definitely give him props as well. I'll try to be completely balanced and completely fair with my praise and criticism of him. And I think this was a good move. I think he could have did some other stuff earlier, but like I said, I take it, and his administration deserves credit for this particular move. Mikael, what did you think of this?
Well, I think of the failures of the prison system. It was supposed to be a means for rehabilitation, but it's never meant that for us. They've stripped many things like the Pell Grant and the ability to study and read and things like that behind bars, leading to about 82% of the people who leave jail to return back. So, I mean, I guess I sort of concur to what you're saying. I don't really have much more to say than that. I kind of concur to what you're saying on that.
Yeah. Ms. Baba, what you think?
It's a good thing. We want to see more of.
Definitely.
Right.
Go ahead, Ms. Baba.
Oh, no, I was just going to add, I really don't have much to add on this. Yeah, kudos to the Obama administration. I agree with you, too, that it's not 100% perfect, but you have to understand that the way that we have to move, we can't all of a sudden just one day just turn around and say, okay, everybody gets something. You know what I mean? Because it's not just him. Like, all these things that he has to, that he himself and his administration have to, that try to implement, they get, it's kind of like they just get met with a lot of resistance. So yes, this is a really good step in the right direction, but this is not the ultimate goal. But as a first step, I would say that it's a very great step. It is unfortunate that a lot of people that do hold felonies, they weren't able to take advantage of the Pell Grants, and that was like for 22 years because they put a complete halt to any felons receiving any sort of Pell Grant ever since the 1994 Clinton crime bill. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to see this step finally, but yeah, I'm just curious, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the end result of it as well.
Right. And this is why we got to put pressure on politicians because A lot of people have been putting pressure on President Obama within the last few years about not addressing some issues that affect black people. And a lot of people gave him a pass his first term. But I think it's good to put pressure on politicians because they react to pressure. When he started getting more and more criticism, more and more pressure, he's starting to react a little bit better. He did have a few other policies too within the last few years that have been positive. Again, nowhere near where it need to be, but I think that's how we got to look at politics. We got to stop getting so caught up in these personalities and really just be agenda and policy focused. Are you doing
right.
what you need to do to address our issues or not? And that's it. And that's it. And I give him credit. One more piece of credit I want to give him on this. He actually did this without Congress because, Congress is controlled by the Republicans. And I'm not really on that Republican-Democrat stuff because they both do us dirty in different ways and sometimes in the same way.
Very true.
So,
very true. But
I will give him credit with this. He did go around Congress to get this particular piece of work done. I'm not going to call it legislation because it didn't really go through Congress, but shout out to him for that, and hopefully
right.
The few months left, it could be some other stuff like this too. And this is why I think I was one more thing. I think this is why I was a little bit more critical of President Obama in his first term than other people was, because a lot of people don't understand how politics work. They say, well, the Republicans won't let him do this. I'm like, yeah, that's true. When Republicans do control Congress, you got to go through Congress for some stuff. But there's a lot of things you can do in the executive branch without Congress permission. And some of the stuff
right.
he just didn't do at all. And, some people just didn't understand that. I was trying to explain that. And, if you don't, if you're looking to give somebody a pass, you can find that reason. So it was definitely stuff he could have did earlier that he chose not to do. Let's just call it what it is. But again, like I said, I'm not one of those people that think everything he does is bad. I'm not one of those people. I'm not one of his stands that think he's like a messiah. Like I said, we try to be as fair as possible, always for black with every issue, not just when it comes to President Obama, but every issue. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, y'all want to add something else, or can I move on?
Nope, I'm good to move.
You can move on.
All right. So, this is Independence Day weekend. So, this is a celebration for a lot of people. It's going to be a lot of fireworks, a lot of barbecue, and, I might even dust off the grill myself. You never know, thinking about it. But this is a time where a lot of people celebrate. But I always think about July 4th. I always think about, during the Declaration of Independence in 1776, that, my people wasn't free. It wasn't independence for them. So
right.
around this time, I always think about that. And I'm not saying don't, have a good time this weekend. Don't, go ahead, do your barbecues, spend time with your families, go on your vacations, do all that. I'm not saying don't do that. But, for me, I think it's good to think about this type of stuff. Okay, my people wasn't free, and to this day, technically we free, but we really still not independent because we depend
right.
on so many other people for everything. We really don't have ownership of critical resources that we need to survive, like manufacturing, even our own neighborhoods. And a lot of black neighborhoods, there's hardly any black businesses. We have people from other communities come in and running businesses in our communities, and a lot of these businesses are detrimental to the community. So we don't really own a lot of manufacturing almost anything. So when it comes down to it, once you get to the source, there's rarely somebody that have our same complexion or our hue at the other end. So
Right.
I don't see how we can say that we independent when we still, have to go to other people for these critical resources. So what I want to ask y'all is this. How do y'all go about Independence Day currently? And the second part to the question is, what do you think true black freedom and true black independence look like in your opinion? I'm going to start off with you first, Miss Baba.
Well, honestly, there's not too many holidays that I take personally. The only thing that I would ever really celebrate is my birthday and New Year's. Honestly, to be very blunt. But so yeah, it doesn't really hold. I mean, it does have significance to me, but I don't put so much of an emphasis on it as most of others may. I will say that this is probably the reason why a lot of people look at Juneteenth and the whole Juneteenth celebration as our Independence Day.
Right.
But even that, I still feel is kind of a misnomer because, yes, slavery was abolished, but I just think that because slavery ended doesn't mean that our plight ended at that time as well. Yes, we were physically free, but we continue to be oppressed. And a lot of people do believe. I read several articles, and it's some information that I do agree with, where I feel that slavery just moved from being physical to mental. And I would even go as far as to say that at this point in time, equality just isn't enough. Like we don't need just equality. We should be given privilege to reverse the effects of number one, slavery, Jim Crow, and then the new Jim Crow, which we're currently living in. When it comes to employment, you have to think, okay, so if they say, okay, well, we're gonna give you a fair shot at employment, so we should be okay. Or because of your current education, we're gonna go ahead and make sure that we fix up the public school system, so you guys should be okay. If we fix the criminal justice system and stop racially profiling people, we should be okay from that point. If we stop doing experiments on your people and giving you guys access to adequate health care, you guys should be okay. If we stop redlining and give you access to housing, you guys should be okay. But that simply is not enough, because at this point we've been so oppressed for so long, and we've lived in this Jim Crow / new Jim Crow era for so long, that the negative effects that all these things has had on our people is very evident. So just to make us equal at this point is just not enough. Now we have a level playing field, but then what happens to all those people that were disproportionately negatively affected by all these years of all these things? You know what I mean? It opens the gate for us now, but we're still not starting at the same start line. You understand?
Right.
So that's why I'm saying just to make us equal now is nowhere nearly enough. Yeah, it'll be a step in the right direction, but really, if we were given, I know we spoke about this so many times, if we were given reparations, or if we were given the right to be privileged because of all the oppression that we've endured and we continue to endure, that would be the only way that we'll be able to start at the same damn start line as anyone else. And that's my opinion. That's what in my opinion, that's what black independence will look like for me.
Same question to you, Mikhail. Well, for starters, no, I do not do the fourth. I guess y'all can pretty much guess that one. But my reasons is more in principle. My reasons is more in principle. You know, I have children who look to their father for education. I have to be an example for them. And one thing I want to always pass down to my children, the information I want to get to my children, is to never fall for a false sense of freedom. Never. Understand what freedom really is. Like right now, you have a situation that we just talked about a brother speaking on what's going on with us in this country, and everybody got uncomfortable. That tells you the level of freedom we actually have. Because Caitlyn Jenner can get on ESPN and talk about the struggles of homosexuals, and nobody feels any way about that, right? But now we say something about what's happening to us, and not only do white people feel uncomfortable, but black people feel uncomfortable. Those are your first measurements of where you at as far as freedom in the first place. So I don't ever want you to get a false sense of freedom to think that because you can appropriate European culture, pick up a flag for symbolism, you know, and let off some firecrackers and some bombs, this means you are free. You weren't free then, you're not free now, not the true sense of the word freedom. And you got to always fight harder for the levels of freedom that you want. Your freedom to be able to accumulate resources so you can rebuild your community. Your freedom to be able to speak out on the issues that plague your community. You know, being able to stand up and fight for your community. Right now, we could be killed by the police. We don't have no police department that's going to back us. We don't have no military that's going to back us. We have no economy that is going to back us. But Dylan Roof can walk into a church in the Carolinas, kill 9 people, and the police will take him to Burger King and go get some burgers and make sure he get to prison safe. That's freedom for him. It's not freedom from us. We go on to church and kill 9 people. We're not making it to the police station. We're dead on the street. So I want my children to get the true sense of what freedom is, okay? And what does it look like for me? Well, I carry a Pan-African philosophy. In short, don't want to talk too much about it, but in short, most people misconstrue the message of Pan-African to believe that it's just simply about moving back to Africa, and it's not about that. It's a philosophy that encourages that all of us of African descent unite progressively for the self-benefit for each other throughout the diaspora, meaning that all of us identify and unite under the guise that we are children of Africa. We network with each other. We pass resources amongst each other. We build unions amongst each other. This ideology is one of the reasons why you saw apartheid fall in South Africa. It's also one of the reasons why you see the African Union on the continent of Africa now, because of that ideology of Pan-Africanism. And so I think that would be the biggest form of freedom for us in this day and time, finding sovereign nation that we can refuge towards when this country wants to start tripping. I'll give you an example quickly. There was a kid, what was the name of this kid? It was a Jewish kid, Schreiber, I think his name was. What was his name? Let me get his name. I wrote it down. Samuel Scheinbein. That's his name, Samuel Scheinbein, if anybody want to Google his case. Well, anyway, him and one of his friends killed the kid, and they chopped his body up and left it in a garage. He was able to escape. He was a Jewish kid, and he was able to escape United States courts and be tried over in Israel. That's one of the benefits you can have. I'm not saying you should go kill anybody. You should want to have a sovereign nation simply because you want to get away with murder. But what I'm saying is to have a court that can protect you when you feel like the United States courts are not beneficial for you. We don't have that at this particular moment. We're pretty much at the mercies of the courts out here. So I would like to see us get more into a Pan-African ideology, not a Back to Africa movement. It's a huge difference between that. 50 million people in America can't go to Africa right now. You pretty much collapse the economy, and it'd be more destitute than any other countries that might be already are, and all the countries that are progressive economically, they will pretty much fall if you add 50 million people to their economy. So it's not about that. That's foolish. What it's talking about is the networking that we can do amongst each other for those of us who are in Africa, those of us who are in America, those of us who are in Jamaica, Haiti, West Indies, Caribbean, Caribbean, Canada. All of us who are children of Africa, we network and we unite with each other under the guise that we are the descendants of Africans, and this will then empower us to be able to create sovereign nations, build our own militaries, build our own economies, and find refuge from these countries that are treating us as unjustly at the time. So that's what freedom looks like to me, and that's what I work toward every single day.
Y'all both made some excellent points, so I'm not even going to go too long because I basically just be regurgitating what both of y'all done said. I'm just going to quickly address a couple of points that y'all mentioned. Goes back to assimilation with me and Miss Bala was talking about earlier. That's part of freedom. of not having to assimilate to somebody else's culture, what currently we have to do.
Right.
Like studies show that if you have a black sounding name, you don't get called back just for simple job interviews. You know, that's not independence. Independence is where you can name your kids, you know, African, quote unquote African or black sounding name, and not be worried about, you know, whether your kid will be able to get a job. And hopefully by then, independence for me is that we have our own institutions, our own companies where that wouldn't matter. Because right now, we don't have enough of them. And a lot of times the top people, like even the, you know, where they get their manufacturing from, their you know, and stuff like that, a lot of times they're not somebody that look like us. The top dog a lot of times is not black. So that's where I think we need to be working at. Sometimes we might have to combine resources to get there. That's where independence will look like for me. And I do share the Pan-Africanism that Brother Mikael was just talking about. I'm definitely into that because a lot of times black people, we fall into this trap of tribalism so often, and we done this throughout history. Like, you know, you'll see it here where Caribbeans, black people from the Caribbean, is different from African Americans, and we different from people from the continent of Africa. You know, and some of the things we don't realize is we all were shitted on in different ways, and we all still discriminated against to this very day. You know, like sometimes we get into these dumb arguments, like, okay, who had it worse? African black people in America have opportunities, you know, and some people in Africa didn't, and colonialization, but we lost our culture.